Hello, everyone. Welcome to the FTX podcast. Happy to have here with me today Miles, the founder and CEO of Decentral Games. Welcome, man.
Hey, Tristan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. And to get this kick started, would you mind giving a little bit of background about yourself and the project you founded?
Yeah, of course. So Decentral Games is a metaverse casino ecosystem. We make metaverse casino games in Decentraland. We started the project in early 2019. And because we were close followers of Decentraland, and we figured that gambling style games that are multiplayer and 3D, interactive and social would be a hit, in this metaverse, which is a very nascent community now. But I think it's growing rapidly, and it was accelerated due to COVID. So yeah, we started making casino games. We started with slots, roulette, backgammon, blackjack, and now we're working on poker. Over the course of that first year, we built, the majority of these games and been optimizing them. And then this last summer, we started designing a coin to kind of jumpstart the ecosystem. As we kind of saw a lot of these DeFi projects gain momentum in summer 2020, we felt that, a community-governed treasury really made sense for a casino ecosystem as well. Except, instead of yield farming, feeding the treasury, it would be casino profits from the games. And so that's kind of how we decided to start designing the DG token. And so basically, we just rolled that out on December 1st. And it's distributed to the community via gameplay mining, liquidity farming, and governance rewards. And essentially, it's used to govern the treasury. But yeah, I'm sure we can dive into that a bit more in detail on the podcast. But that's basically, what we were doing at Decentral Games, and we're live, so you can check it out.
Nice. And so, how is the user interface with Decentral Games? What's the process like? Let's say I wanted to try it out and I haven't had a chance. How would you explain that?
Okay. You can just go to our website at decentral.games. You can see kind of a video of what it looks like in the casino. There's like a video on loop when you get to the website. You can see all the different games that we've made, all of our NFTs. Basically, some of the NFTs that we've made are these wearable items that you can rock in the casino, and they actually give you a bonus. So they have utility, and so they give you a bonus in your DG mining as you play games. And so yeah, you can go to the website. I mean, that's the most common onboard, I would say. But yeah, if you're already in Decentraland, you can just stumble upon the casino as well. So that works too. I would say just to be able to onboard seamlessly and to get all the right information, going to the website would be optimal.
I guess that was my question as well. So it's like in Decentraland, you can come across the casino. It's just hanging out there somewhere.
Yeah, we have several casinos throughout Decentraland, but it's kind of hard, to stumble across just because this Decentraland is kind of large, and so it's much more efficient for people if they're looking for the casinos to go to access them from our website, because you're able to just specify in the URL exactly the coordinates that you'd like to jump into and then teleport directly there. So otherwise you'd have to kind of traverse the whole metaverse and try to stumble upon it, which is a bit less efficient, but I mean, I'm sure there'll be a scenic route.
And to interface, people are just using a Web3 wallet?
Yeah, exactly. So right now we're compatible with MetaMask. So you can basically log into our site, connect to your MetaMask wallet. And then to play games, though, you have to or play games with crypto, and we offer gameplay in Mana and DAI currently. You have to deposit to Matic L2 on Ethereum. So basically, takes like 5 minutes to move some assets, your Mana or DAI to Matic network. And then once it's on Matic, you're able to play games seamlessly because we've integrated meta transactions, which basically allows us to pay gas, on behalf of the user. So you don't have to have ETH on on the L2 wallet. And Matic network obviously is much quicker and cheaper than Ethereum. So players can play games directly from this non-custodial Matic wallet that's tied to their Ethereum wallet through MetaMask. And it's much quicker and much more seamless of a user experience compared to signing mainnet transactions for each gameplay transaction. which would, take a long time and just kind of be a clunky user experience.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And something I'm curious about here is you said kind of you liquidity mine, you get yield incentives by playing the games. What's the functionality behind this? So, I've done farming and I understand that, but this is one of the first times I hear. Well, I guess Rarible had something where if you buy stuff, you got some incentives, but how does it work with you guys?
Yeah, sure. Great question. So we have the two main ways to earn our token are, gameplay mining and liquidity farming. So the gameplay mining basically is just a function of how much you're wagering in blackjack or roulette initially. And the roulette is a bit different. It's based on wager, absolute value of wager minus win. But basically, the more you play with mana and DAI crypto, the more you mine. And so basically after any session, you're able to just claim those tokens for playing. And then, do whatever you please with them. You could, stake them in governance. You can just hodl them or just leave them in your wallet. Yeah, it really depends on what the user would like to do. But yeah, it was designed to kind of go along with this play to earn narrative that's kind of popping up now that I think, makes a lot of sense given its ability to incentivize participation while also, providing value for the network. So in our case, obviously, the casino games have a slight house edge, which favors the treasury. And so in return for playing games and, essentially adding value to the treasury over time, the players will receive the token in return. And then obviously have some stake in the network or some say in the future of the network in the project based on their amounts of DG tokens that they have. And so that's basically the gameplay mining mechanism. For liquidity farming, it's pretty similar to some of the DeFi liquidity farming incentives. Basically, we just have two pools on Balancer, a mana DG pool and a DAI DG pool. And they're both 98.2 weighted. And so to farm DG, you basically just have to provide liquidity in one of those two pools and then use the Balancer pool token and stake it on our website. And then you'll be able to start accruing DG yield returns from staking those Balancer pool tokens. And we're going to be running rewards for that for the next 40 weeks. Just to kind of jumpstart the ecosystem and provide ample liquidity for people that want to trade between those tokens.
Got it. That makes sense. And then the DG token holders, if they're staking governance, the value accrual to the token happens through the gains from the casino that flow into governance, or is it a buy and burn? What's the model there?
Yeah, so it's very similar to some of the DeFi kind of governance structures where you have this kind of community governed treasury. And the token holders stake and vote to allocate funds and manage the treasury essentially. So the value accrual I would say would be because of the casino profits kind of bumping up the value of the treasury over time and being able to kind of allocate those funds. Whether it's because it's accruing value in mana and DAI. As people play games, the token holders they can decide to use those funds to distribute governance rewards to the people staked in the governance contract, or they can use them to buy back the DG token from the Balancer pools and then distribute more DG rewards to the stakers as well. Or it can just sit in there and they can allow and approve grants for new game development. Different games that will feed the treasury in the future. So there's some options.
Got it. Have you guys considered interacting with other stablecoins, or I'm curious why you guys went with DAI and what was the rationale there?
We were partners with Maker, for several months before this, and we just kind of felt that DAI was a good choice, just because it's a bit more decentralized than some of the other stablecoins, and so. Yeah, we've gotten a lot of interest in adding like USDC or USDT. And we may, add them in the future, but right now I think our main objective is just to grow kind of our existing user base with Mana and DAI. And we do have some onboard help for people that if they, don't have Mana or DAI, we're partnered with a fiat on-ramp that's like super easy to implement and integrate into your any Web3 app on our site. And it's called Transact. Basically, you're able to purchase Mana or DAI directly on Matic Network L2 with a debit card or credit card. So it's kind of a nice option for people that are wanting to play games if they don't have Mana or Dai. And it also, it's quicker than depositing to Matic because, the deposits can take like 5 minutes or so. And, if you just purchase it with a debit card, it could be, a few minutes, like 1 or 2 minutes maybe to onboard.
Got it. Yeah, that was the basis of my question. Is I think a lot of people, unless you're an ETH native, have a lot more familiarity and ease of access to USDT and USDC. But I mean, the rationale you guys are going with makes sense if you have a different fiat gateway there. My next question for you is a bit more abstract, and I want to know your thoughts on the AR VR space, and then maybe tie that into the gaming. But first of all, just like, I think if you're building in this space, it's because you care about it, and I'd like to hear your views.
Definitely.
Where you think it's going, what motivated you
to
it in the first place, just in general, like what this means to you, when it triggered your interest, have you been following it for a while? Like, what was your personal rationale for going with this project versus others? For
sure. Yeah, definitely. I would say I didn't really have too much history in VR before Decentraland launched. I was participating in the community of Decentraland, early, right after their token sale in 2017. And I saw the potential, and I thought that, having these kind of 3D social experiences in metaverse is something novel. And I thought that, it's just going to get bigger from here. And, a lot of the experiences, in the early days of Decentraland were relatively simple. I mean, very, very like simple games. And it kind of reminded me of the early internet games. And so obviously, over time, as more interest and more investment is made into the space, you get better quality of games. But yeah, I mean, I think it just kind of creates this entirely new and novel dynamic of social experiences on the internet. Yeah, I mean, I think obviously I'm biased, but I think it's just going to get bigger and bigger from here. And we definitely want to be, on the forefront of kind of the multiplayer wagering based games space in the metaverse.
Got it. And what's going on in Decentraland? I haven't really been keeping up in a while. I know the community has been growing quite steadily throughout this year, but other than that, I'm a bit blank.
Yeah, sure. We're actually very close partners with the Decentraland team. They've done a great job of kind of catering to all the needs that we would have to make our games a reality. So I'm really thankful for everything that they've done. And in the early days, they really helped us out before we got funded and everything. So that was really, really nice to receive. So anyways, more recently, they've really been stepping up their game. They put on all these types of community events, like really cool events. Like the last one that I attended was like a music festival type of setting where, they had like this really cool light show and live DJ set. And it was very interesting because, you haven't, over this course of this year, there's been like no live music performances. And it kind of reminded me of what it was like to be at like a live show. It's very strange. And so, yeah, I mean, I think stuff like that is really cool to see from them. And seems like they really want to engage their community. I know they're doing a really cool Christmas event, another live performance from RIC, I believe. And yeah, and then they roll out new features every couple of weeks that just kind of make the tools that developers have to build experiences in the metaverse a bit better. For example, they've been working on voice chat. So I think, once you have the ability to not only just chat someone via text in the metaverse, but also, just walk up to them and start talking to them as if you were in front of them. I think that's going to add a whole nother dimension for user interaction amongst people in the metaverse. So yeah, stuff like that. I mean, I think they've done a great job building the right tools, for people to use to build experiences, but also, engaging the community in ways and cool experiences like the live shows and everything.
What do you think the sort of longer term goal here is, that in this metaverse you can put on a pair of VR glasses and then just go and interact directly within it?
Yeah, definitely. I think VR was part of their vision from the beginning, like during their token sale in 2017. So, but yeah, I mean, in the meantime, I think they've kind of focused on decentralization. They've focused on just kind of user growth and ease of use. That's kind of why they have a browser-based experience rather than a client, just because you can access and jump into the decentralized metaverse via URL. So it's super easy. But yeah, I think the reason why we are really excited about what we're building is because of this kind of end goal of VR. And I think when you're able to put on some VR goggles and jump into one of our casinos and play, blackjack and roulette and poker with your buddies, no matter where you are in the world, and you're able to talk to them, and while also playing directly from your wallets, that's obviously non-custodial. I think that's going to be a really awesome experience. But obviously, I think I would say a year or two off potentially. I don't know exactly the roadmap and timing of VR and Decentraland, but I know it's definitely something that is going to happen at some point.
Cool. And what have been some of the difficulties and challenges you've faced building a casino? Like, what are some of the harder aspects of this?
I would say the user experience. People have a very high expectations for user experience, just because a lot of the online casinos out there are, a lot of them are centralized. And so it's easier for them to deliver instant transactions, just seamless user experience. And so from the beginning for us, we really wanted to maintain user custody and also, build on an L2 on Ethereum. And so kind of navigating around those constraints in terms of design was a bit of a challenge, but, took us a year and a half to get to where we are today. And I think, now that we kind of have this infrastructure, I believe that, making any type of game that has wagering involved will be much easier and it'll come a lot faster for us. I would say that's been one of the main challenges that's been kind of that we've been working on, since the beginning.
And the community is doing pretty well. Have you how have you guys kind of drummed up some support, and have you just guys had people following you for a long time, or just recently with all of this, you've had some newer users?
I would say, yeah, from the beginning, we didn't really have that many people in our Discord and on Twitter. But yeah, more recently, we started doing a lot of events, which I think is, a really key pillar of our marketing strategy. Just because, when you're in a casino, like a virtual casino with, 100 other users, and you can socialize with them and see them playing the games, it's much more rich of a user experience compared to just hitting the tables solo. So I think, and then also, by having people kind of meet in this virtual space, you get other kind of byproducts where people kind of, develop relationships with each other, like friendships, and they like playing games with each other in the future too. So I think, kind of, it's been cool to see that happen. And I think, the fact that we started doing these community events, I would say like maybe 3 months ago, we started doing them pretty frequently. It's been awesome to kind of see how that affects and grows the community. But I would say having the incentives though has been also very key in doing those events, because we'd give away like our NFTs in the early days. And now obviously, that we have the gameplay mining kind of incentives with the DG token, it's been that has gotten a lot of people to hop in because they can, earn tokens for playing. So I think, obviously, in the future, as we host more events and do more promotions, I would say, that's going to be kind of like the main piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, that makes sense. And how has the timing been for you guys, kind of with this recent launch and everything? Was it good timing? Would you feel like it could have been in a different moment? What was the sentiment internally?
I would say it was okay timing. I would say, we've been working on the games for over a year and a half now, and we really just wanted to give our community what they wanted, and I think right now, especially with COVID, I feel like a lot of people are at home, and I think just getting our products in the hands of everyone, and have them be able to play with real crypto was important to just get out there. Obviously, we've made optimizations since then. It's been about a week and a half since we've launched, and there were a few things that we needed to fix But I think just launching and getting it out there and getting some really good feedback, which was like 10x the amount of feedback than that we would have got if we didn't launch. Starting that kind of cycle of user feedback and optimization of the product because of the launch really is going to help us out in the long term. So I think the timing was good though in that sense.
Yeah, agreed. It's better to get it out there and optimize and pivot as you have it, I think, rather than try and release a perfected project. That's kind of what I was chatting with Bobby Cho from CMS, and because he invests in a lot of early stage companies, he was saying the same thing. So I think that was a good call on your guys' side. Another question I have for you.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
Something I've been curious about is just speaking with people that are working with L2s on ETH, and sort of would love to hear your experience and how hard the technical aspects of this were and how it worked out and played out to where you are now.
First of all, Matic is really developer friendly. Their approach to an account based like Plasma implementation is very, very friendly for developers, because you can basically take any smart contract on Ethereum and just deploy it to Matic, and it works pretty much the same as the mainnet. I know there's a lot of other L2 options to use nowadays, but I think we've known the Matic team for over 2 years now, and so it was the obvious choice for us to pick them to build on. And then there's a lot of tools that have kind of popped up more recently that make developing on Matic even easier. Byconomy is another one of our partners, and they specialize in meta transactions, and basically being able to set up these proxy contracts that either pay gas or sign transactions on different chains for you from a mainnet signature. So for example, when our users onboard on our site, and if they deposit crypto from their mainnet wallet to Matic, they actually have to, after that, sign one or sign a couple, depending on which coins they're going to use, transactions on Matic. And traditionally, MetaMask hasn't really been user friendly for like signing transactions on different networks. You have to like enter like a custom RPC URL, and it takes a few steps, and it's kind of just a clunky user experience. And so we wanted to use Byconomy because they have this a structure that you can implement where a user is able to sign a transaction on the mainnet, and then it relays it and makes delivers a signature on Matic without the user having to like switch the RPC and kind of fiddle with that for a while. And so yeah, that was very key for us as well. And then finally, we had, like I said, with the Transact fiat on ramp, that was also very key because people can just buy assets with fiat directly on the L2. So that kind of circumvents the entire deposit to L2 process. So I would say all these tools are relatively new, and so we're one of the first projects that's kind of used them all, and really use them to our advantage to make kind of this user experience that's a lot more seamless than requiring people to deposit crypto from an exchange to their MetaMask, like deposit that crypto to L2, change their RPC, like sign a transaction on different networks. So yeah, it's very much more streamlined, and I think these tools will just get better and better as people are more interested in using L2s.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I think like gaming is going to be one of the parts that are going to push all the blockchains to do better, I think, because if not, the experiences just suck. I tried to a lot of the early ETH games when everything was still in L1, and it just takes too long, and it's too expensive. So I'm excited to see how this all rolls out. And
yeah, I agree.
And there are some games that are killing it though, like the Axie guys. They're doing a really good job. I mean, and I do agree that the browser-based thing isn't a bad start. I was a huge RuneScape player when I was younger, and I think they did really good for a browser-based game. So I think there's a lot of hope for that as well.
Definitely. Yeah, Axie has been killing it. They have a massive community now too. It's crazy how much some of their NFTs are going for.
I think it's going to get really exciting when all these games, blockchain games, become composable with each other in more direct ways. Where like you could have like some freaking little Axie character jump over into the metaverse and go gamble at your casino or whatever. There's,
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of possible if done
Oh
right.
yeah, for sure. Definitely. I know there's projects like working in the Decentral ecosystem there's one called Crypto Avatars, and they're trying to like create this kind of metaverse agnostic avatar. And so basically when you buy one of their NFT avatars, you can kind of just use it in Decentraland or crypto voxels or any other metaverse that you please. And they'll look the same apparently. I haven't tried that either, but I heard it looks pretty cool. So I think the more interoperability between these projects, I think will help, because we're kind of going after the crypto folks initially. Obviously we want to break into the non-crypto folks as players and users. But originally I think people that are familiar with crypto are a good start to build the communities. And I feel like a lot of the projects can benefit from kind of opening up their platform to other platforms and users.
Yeah, I totally think so. I mean, and since it's pretty much mostly open source, I think a lot of this can be done without necessarily the teams having to do much work. Like I could totally see business models in the future where the business is just creating a game that incorporates the other games into it, where the characters, levels, and stats and stuff somehow passes on into this new game, and you get these mismatch modded games like you can do in some in some single player games right now. It'd be pretty fun.
Yeah, it would be awesome. Yeah, kind of like you're able to grow. Like it's kind of it'd be awesome to kind of have these games interoperable, because like they're able to grow together. So that'd be huge.
Yeah. Hey, what is it? Ape alone weak, apes together strong. Or so, the meme or something like that.
Yeah.
I have a last question for you, Miles. I want to know a little bit about your longer term vision here and what you would really like to see your project end up as.
Cool. So right now, obviously, it's the early days, and we have 4 games, 5th game in the works. We have kind of the infancy, like our governance, in its infancy. But we have the kind of structure in place for this kind of community treasury to start growing and accruing value and be governed by the players, the liquidity providers, and just any token holder that wants to participate. And so I think obviously it's a bit more difficult to build this thing with decentralization in mind, because you kind of have to figure out all of the moving parts and figure out kind of a sustainable model compared to just building a traditionally structured, like centralized casino with like traditional business model that's trying to make money for the people who own it. Now it's been, in the early days, it's been a bit more difficult, but I think over time, as more and more people mine the coin and the distribution gets wider and wider, that it will be able to grow even faster. When you have 5,000 people holding a coin, everyone is kind of incentivized to make the project a success, as opposed to having 10 or 20 shareholders of a company. Over time, I think it definitely benefit from kind of this more decentralized model. So I think, in terms of vision, definitely want to grow this browser-based casino or non-custodial crypto casino experience. But long term, we want to do VR when Decentral supports that. And just keep building more and more games and just growing the community and growing the treasury that the community governs. So that's kind of what we're looking at.
Cool. Yeah, I think poker will be a great step in that direction for you guys. I know a lot of these big crypto Twitter players are all poker players as well. So if you could get some of those guys doing some testing and stuff, it's probably good.
Definitely. Yeah. We're really excited for poker. I think we're trying to push it out like in about 2 months. I think it's pretty much the general structure of the game is there, but there's just a few features that I think a lot of online poker players are kind of accustomed to, that we definitely want to add kind of auxiliary features to the game. And so, and then I think people that play poker, some of them, just strictly like poker, they don't really play blackjack or roulette or whatever. So I think diversifying our offering with poker, I think would be, it's going to be good for the project for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, thanks so much for coming on, man. It was great chatting. I like listening about, AR, VR, future projects, because I think I told you when we first chatted that there's this book Neil Stephenson wrote called Snow Crash that I highly recommend for you, because it basically is the optimal outcome for what your project could become.
Yeah, I remember we had that discussion. Yeah, that would be awesome. I think there's a lot of work to be done, but I think we're headed in the right direction. Just gotta deliver everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, take care, man. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Tristan. Thanks for having me on.